Hey, it's time to start thinking about how to mount this sliding latch hardware on the YILDIZ gun case. I've got this 3/4 inch router bit that I'm going to install in my router table there behind me. And I just need to figure out some kind of a jig to guide the router bit so it's straight and stops exactly where I want it to. So I'm going to be doing some measuring and then making a jig. I want the a latch to be installed here on this side, one in the middle, and then one down here on this end. And so I'm going to be having I'm going to feed this case across the router table. And I've done some measuring. Since I want the latch to be pointed down and not up, I'm getting about 0.27 inches is how deep the recess needs to be to drop this down and still pull the case closed firmly. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the router jig for that and show you how that's going to work out. And so over here on the router table, I'm going to set up a temporary fence. I've got a square here, and this is going to be my fence. And I just want to, I can use my caliper here. It's set up for 29 millimeters, and I can see the center point of that router bit I'm using. And I'm also using a square to make sure my fence is square. And so right now I just need to clamp this fence down with some C-clamps. So you can see I've added 2 C-clamps here. Every router table is a little different. This one's not always, it's not the easiest thing to work with, but I'm able to use it most of the time. So I've got this fence is square, and I've got it at 29 millimeters from the center to the edge. That's what I'm looking for. And so the next thing to do, I'm going to be feeding the case in from this side, and I'm going to want to stop it back here. So I'm going to have to add another piece back here. So when I push it in, it'll stop. So that's the next thing I need to do is measure that distance and put a stop on that. So I measured the depth back and determined that I needed to cut in 46 millimeters. So I'm using, I've got a gauge set up here. I'm measuring from the edge, of course the router's unplugged, from the edge of the bit to the stop. And then I'm also going to use a square here to make sure I get that square too. And then I just clamp this down. So I've added 2 C-clamps here to the back fence, and I've ensured that it's square, and I've double checked my measurement, 46 millimeters. And so you can see it's fairly time consuming to set up the jig just for this one operation, but it's worth it to make sure you're getting it right. If I was making a lot of these, I would actually make a permanent jig that could bolt to my router, but this is just a one-time thing, and so this is how I'm going to do it. Just takes a few minutes to use these C-clamps to hold it in. And then I'm going to have to shift it all around. This is for the left side, then I have to do the right side, and then the one in the middle will be totally different looking than this. So the other thing I need to do is confirm my depth. So what I'm going to do is run a scrap piece of wood into this and adjust the depth to make sure that I'm cutting at the proper depth before I try to run my gun case in there. So that's the next step. I'm going to do some testing on the depth. And then also I can confirm my measurements. Once I get a piece of wood with the groove in it, I can also go back and confirm my measurements and make sure everything is exactly like I want it before I run the actual case into it. So I'm going to start with a 6 millimeter depth of cut. I think it's going to need to be more than that. So I've got my device set up for 6 millimeters. So I'm going to scribe a line on it here. the calipers. And then I can hold it up across the blade and I can see that I need to bring that up just a little. And still have the router unplugged. You would never want to do these kinds of adjustments with it plugged in, because the switch may accidentally fail or something like that could happen. So now I think I've got it set up. I'm going to go ahead and do a test board. I realized as I was cutting it that I measured from the wrong side of the blade, and so my depth would have been a lot deeper than I really needed it to be. So I wanted to stop here and move the this back fence. I had measured from this blade. I needed to measure from this one since I'm cutting in from this direction. So it's a good thing I caught it, and I need to make an adjustment here. So I've got my calipers set up, 46. I need to loosen this fence and move it because I need to measure from this edge, the back edge, because that's going to be the actual depth. Earlier I measured it from here, and that would be a lot off. So it's a good idea to always double check and do some test cuts. So it needs to be from this side of the blade. And I don't think my C-clamp is deep enough. I'm going to have to find a different C-clamp. I got a different C-clamp here. It's a little deeper. Another one here to stabilize it on the end. Actually, I might need to put this on the other side of the wood because I think it's longer than this. So I don't want it to hit this. I don't want any interference there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and test that again. Actually, I realized it's a good time to verify this depth before I cut the whole piece. I can actually do a check of this depth here, and see if I need to make an adjustment here. I can easily measure it right here with the calipers. I got 5.95. I was looking for 6. I'm going to go with that. I can always increase that a little. It's very close. So I'm going to run it just like it's set. So got the groove cut there. Pretty clean cut. Surprising. This is plywood. I was kind of expecting it to be kind of a mess, but it did okay. So now I'm just going to confirm that this is going to work with my hardware. And that looks good. I wanted this to be recessed in slightly, and it is. Of course, it's going to be mounted this way. I'm going to have to make another jig and cut this down here some more. I might actually do another stop and just have it go down more and use the same bit and the same setup while I've got it like this. But I like this. I'm going to go ahead and make the cut on the panel. I'm going to go ahead and cut it for real now. Of course, my power switch is broken, so I have to plug the device in. And so these ridges are going to kind of mess me up here. It's going to start jumping on these. So I think I can work around that. So I've got a groove cut in here, and now I need to drill a recess for this to drop down further. So I'm going to use this bit here to do that. It's slightly larger diameter, so it should provide plenty of clearance. So I can see now I've got the hardware dropped in there, And I'm just checking to make sure it's going to clear my lid. And I can see that I need to remove just a little more. I need to make this cut just a little deeper. So I'm going to go back over to the router and make an adjustment there. So back on the router, I'm leaving my jig set up. I need to cut this hole a little deeper. So I've still got my piece of wood with the mark on it here. So I can set that behind there and I can see the depth it would cut. And now I just loosen the router, the set here. And raise it up about how much I think it should be, which is about 1 millimeter. So now I'll recut the groove a little deeper. So I've cut the groove a little deeper, the recess for the hardware. There's just a little I need to remove there that's flat or something. I like that. That's about 1/4 of a millimeter below the surface. That's perfect. So that's the process. I'll just go through and set up the jig for the other cuts. And what happens in the end, this piece here gets attached to the aluminum underneath, and it gets captured. When you close the lid, it gets captured by that and latches into place.